Yeah. Dennis laughs. Yeah, it's like never. Okay, so here we are, Vision Sunday. I want to kick this off by just explaining what the format is. Basically, we're going to have 3 hours. No, sorry, an hour. We're going to have 1 hour. Basically, it's about 30 minutes where we're going to look at these 5 questions that are on the screen. What was the process? What is the project? Why this project and why now? What is the investment? How will we pay for it? And then we're going to break into input forums. All right, so during that first part with these 5 questions, we're not going to take any questions. We're just going to got 4 presenters that are going to go through that. Then the input forums, which will take place in the fellowship hall, that's your opportunity. We want your input. We want you to be able to, we're going to have 5 questions. You're going to go into the fellowship hall for that second part. There's circles of chairs. You'll just go ahead and join any circle of chairs you want. And then we're going to have 5 questions and 5 minutes per question. So basically a half hour here, half hour there. So in an hour, we should be done. The idea for the input forums is we really do want your input, where you get a chance to talk about what's not clear, what doesn't make sense, anything, any questions you have, you write those down, and we'll explain a little bit more about the whole process, but just to let you know what's going to happen here. Okay, so I'm going to be the first one talking about what was the process. So as looking back at some notes, Church Council has been talking about over the years, we understand, the daycare's got kids on the waiting list, things of that nature. In February of 2020, then the Church Council, we were talking about that, and we decided, you know what, we want to invite Portia or the board, but we need them to come to a Church Council meeting so that we can actually find out how can we be supportive. That was the whole idea. If you've got kids on the waiting list, what can we do to help? Well, COVID then happened, the next month. So Portia and then Connor and Keaton, they all came, but they didn't come till October. Okay, so in October of 2020, then Portia explained to the Church Council how there are 30 children currently on a waiting list, and I think for a lot of us, we didn't realize we had a lot of kids on a waiting list. She talked about how the size of the basement rooms limit the number of children. Even at that point, we all talked about possibilities of remodeling the basement, or a new building was discussed, or we were just trying to figure out, what could we do. So the Church Council decided to take that then to the business meeting, to ask the church what the church thought about forming a committee to talk about expanding the daycare in some kind of form, just to try to figure out what was happening. So at the November 2020 business meeting, that was presented, discussed, and then voted on. And then in January of 2021, there's a committee formed to explore all kinds of options on what can we do to help the daycare. Okay, that committee met all of last year. Maybe they didn't meet in December, but met several times. They met all year long. Along the way, we met some new friends. Dustin from DJ Construction, who will be speaking after me, is one of those friends. Then there is a Mike and a Bill. I never did catch their last names, from Church Growth Services, and all these people were helpful to us as we were trying to figure out what is it we want to do. So Church Growth Services then was engaged to help the committee understand what might be involved in a building program. And so here is just a diagram to try to help. This is the diagram is actually called Balancing the Triangle, and the idea is at the top you've got the ministry. So what is the ministry? And then over on the side, and I believe it's that side. Well, it's that side is the financial. Okay, and yeah, okay. Just make sure. And the other side's got the facility. And the idea was you can't just all of a sudden, we're going to build a building, and now we're done. Not until you get a chance to look at, well, what are the ministry goals? And so we were told, the ministry goals need to drive the building design. Whether it's a remodel, new building, add-on, it didn't make any difference. You've got to start first with your ministry goals. And then the idea that along the bottom there, the financial goals scale the project size. What can we afford? What do we want? But again, it's all about the ministry goals. So the first thing that this committee then started to work at then was identify the ministry goals, okay? And we thought, well, let's start out with what are the purpose statements of both entities, Shore Church and Rainbow Years Learning Ministry. So the purpose statement for Shore, loving God and loving others. And then the purpose statement for RYLM is enriching the lives of children through dependable Christian care. So out of that then, some ministry goals were formed, and this is just a summary. It's much longer than this, but this is a summary of some of the key ministry goals. Want to expand to create additional capacity for the 45 families on the waiting list. Notice, now it's not 30 children on the waiting list. That's the difference between of October 2020 and then sometime here in the early part of 2021, now there's 45 families on the waiting list. I mean, that's how much the need is out there in the community. So the idea was, how can we shrink that waiting list? Number 2, have adequate sized classrooms that maximize teacher-student ratio. There are state guidelines for the daycare on how many children can be in a room, and if the room's not very large, you can't put more kids in that room. Doesn't matter how many teachers you've got or whatever, it's all about the ratio and the size of the rooms. Number 3, they're really looking for a year-round space for developing motor skills. The playground's awesome. There's obviously times of the year that's not possible, or even on a rainy day. So just something year-round. What could we have for that? The 4th one, a space for growing and discipling RYLM, Shore Church, and community children. Just trying to recognize we want that to work for everybody. The community children, kids in the daycare, Shore kids. And then the 5th one, growing RYLM as the first step the church can take to extend our mission. So basically, those were these ministry goals. A lot of time was spent then talking, meeting after meeting, and just brainstorming about, okay, so if we want to have these goals, what can we do? Talked about several different possibilities, and I'm next up is Dustin. I'm going to pass this off to him because then he is part of the building design team for DJ Construction. And he'll tell you more about what it is we decided on then.
Thank you. So it's Mike Stottlemyre and Bill Walter. Just to let you know. Yeah. So just want to make sure we're clear. So, no, we had a wonderful time working as a group, coming up with a lot of different possibilities. So, what we tried to do is take a look at the facility as a whole and what our ministries were going to be, not just for the RYLM program, but everything. And so we went all the way around the realm of possibilities here. We talked about additions and where they would go, and we don't want to box ourselves into a corner by doing one plan and find out 5-10 years later that wasn't the right thing to be doing. So what we try to do is we have a concept of, with that ministry triangle, letting the ministries drive the facilities. And one of those things we talk about quite a bit was a hub and spoke plan for our, based off of the commons area, the foyer area. So easy access to parking, easy access to admin space, children's worship, adult and educations, those types of things. So as we talk about, not just what we're doing, but where would it go, that kind of layout is typical for a very functioning church, knowing that the foyer common space is not just a means for people to go back and forth, but even in our 5-minute break here, that's where ministry happens. Conversations happen. People have dialogue and see things that, as you crisscross around the facility, that is important space that we want to make sure we maintain and wrap our arms around here. So we talked about a lot of different things, and so we landed on a plan. We're in a kind of a concept stage of it. This is where we kind of test the waters with the Vision Sunday campaign process that Church Growth Services does, and so I'm going to walk us through that plan right now. And just so you know, we are going to have hard copies of these in your circle groups. So if you have a hard time seeing up on the screen, don't worry about it. We'll be able to get a physical copy in your hand a little bit later. So this is the existing floor plan of the basement. So this would be, some of you may not spend a lot of time down there, but this is exactly what it looks like from above. So pretend God grabbed you by the collar, pulled you up, and you're looking down. Okay? So north wing here, east wing here. Right now, the stairs to go down, we're down here. These stairs, the exit is over this way. So to give you an idea, this is just straight up, north is up, very simple, okay? Real quick, here's the demo plan. So the goal is to try to optimize the room spaces for the ratio of square footage to number of kids with 2 teachers per room, basically. So we came up with a plan, and this would be the demo plan. The dashed lines would be walls and doors and things that come out to give us a new layout. And so this is our new layout right here. And what we're doing, if you're familiar with the basement at all, there's 2 restrooms down there. Those are over here on the right-hand side. Those are going to be completely remodeled. And then we're going to be adding essentially 9 restrooms that aren't there currently, okay? And each one of those are going to be, or most of those are going to be directly off of classrooms so that teachers can take the kids directly in for potty breaks and things like that. And you don't have to parade a classroom going down the hallways to use the facilities. So that's pretty consistent throughout. Those are in this, the yellow colored here, single hole restrooms. And then we've got 2 adult restrooms off of the north hallway, so there are adult facilities on both wings of the building then. One of the things that we talked about was kind of first impressions coming in, and not just for Sunday mornings, but for families coming in, dropping off and picking up their kids. And if you're familiar with how they operate, the far east set of stairs and doors, the drop-off and pickup locations for the RYLM families. And so one of the things we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of embrace the central foyer concept, and these front doors right out here will actually be the pickup and drop-off doors for that program. And then that means straight down the steps, well, that's going to be where the office sits and the staff lounge. So they're kind of centralized in that basement area, so easy access north and south, but also be able to keep an eye on families coming and going. This also gives the church staff a little bit of opportunity to see who's coming and going as they're out and about in the foyer space. So Nick and Carl can grab somebody, say hi, and introduce themselves if they're unfamiliar. But it also gets those families who may not be here on Sunday mornings an opportunity to see the actual church spaces instead of just the basement. So really like that concept right there. And then we've got a playroom, which is where the teen room is, the school-age children, so the before school, after school care rooms are down that way. One of the things that actually lays out pretty well here is our infant room, the nursery starts here, and the kids just, as they get older, kind of circle around the basement. So you kind of see a logical progression from room to room. But some of you may notice, why is there a restroom right off that infant's room, for example? Or, we thought, well, in the future, it may not be the infant's room, right? We want to be able to be flexible with some of these spaces. And so This, having restrooms off of each one of these rooms allows us some flexibility, some movement in the future, so different square footages. They're pretty close to each other, but you never know what happens, and that way there's always an opportunity for an easy access restroom off of all the rooms that we'll be renovating down there. If you spend any time down there at all, you might notice that there's not a lot of air movement, there's not a lot of air conditioning. It's a boiler system. And so one of the things we'll be doing, in addition to some of the structural openings and the changes and the restrooms going in, but a big component of the project is going to be mechanicals. And so we're going to have mechanical systems down there that allow some air movement, some air conditioning, and try to refresh those the HVACs down there. I drove into the details here a little bit more. So as I was saying, the east wing here, we've got infants, toddlers, toddler twos, young preschool, and these red areas here, we got an art storage room, and then the library space, and then the current nursery area. This turns into a laundry room and a large storage space, since that's kind of at the end of the hall that would be least walked. And a little bit more detail on the north wing as well. These purple areas, which you've seen kind of throughout, is also storage, some closet space. There'll also be built-in casework in each one of those rooms. So like I said, we talked about not just renovating the basement, but also what's the next step? What would happen next if we were able to get all of this in one project? And so that started talking about our master plan and what area would serve both the RYLM program and the church. And that would be just kind of a general multi-purpose, large, maybe gymnasium, but also used for different functions. And as we looked at that, we said, where would that go that would make sense? Again, with that hub and spoke concept of easy access off the foyer, we said, this spot right here would make the most sense. I'll try to get in a little bit closer there so you can see. So this would be a space, approximately a standard junior high basketball court dimensions would fit in this space, a 4,000 square foot addition. And we would put that not at the basement level, but on the main foyer level. And so we would, as you go down that hallway this way where the family restroom is, that restroom would go away. That would be the opening into the addition over there. But other than that, we didn't really talk a whole lot about details in that space. We knew that was kind of a phase two versus the phase one of the basement. So just to kind of give you an idea of the long-term vision that we had talked about, that was something that came up to play. And we want to just let you know that we came up with that, and we're throwing that out there as an option for if things go well here. So again, with the idea that we're talking about concepts and we haven't dialed in everything, we haven't tested numbers, but looking back on historic database models and takeoff quantities and things like that, we're able to put a budget to both phase one and phase two. And so these would be kind of all-in budgetary numbers. So touching the basement's about 8,600 square feet total with all the demo, all the restrooms, new walls, new doors, new finishes, everything would be touched down there. We're talking somewhere between a $650,000 to $850,000 budget range for phase one. And then phase two is the addition. And so again, a family restroom relocation, the multi-purpose addition, that's about a $750,000 to $900,000 line item right there. So we got some roof overbuilds and things like that, but we'll figure it out. So just to give you an idea of budgetary what we're doing. And so the next steps would be our conversations we're having today, church growth services. We'll get some input, and I think Nick will probably touch a little bit more on next steps. But after we get an idea of what our actual true budgets are, that's where we come back and we market test the numbers and firm up our pricing. And so this just gets us enough for a conversation, and I'm going to turn it over to Nick from here.
All right, there we go. So I get to answer the question, why this project and why now? And I will do my best not to continue preaching at you since you've heard enough of that. But I will say this is something that I am very passionate about, and so it may come across that way a little bit. So apologies in advance. I want to start off with looking at and reminding everyone of our purpose here at Shore and the purpose of RYLM. Carl touched on this briefly, but I want to get a little bit deeper into that because I think it's part of our DNA, and if we're working out of our DNA, it leads us to what we're talking about here today. So the purpose of Shore Church is loving God and loving others. And so this means that everything that we do here at Shore should be about loving God and loving others to the best of our ability. And one of the ways that we've sought to do that is through the ministry of Rainbow Years Learning Ministry. And Rainbow Years started in 1995 is the brainchild of one of our Sunday school classes here. So this is something that's been around for 25 plus years here at Shore. And since then, it has developed into what it is today with a purpose of enriching the lives of children through dependable Christian care. And I think I can speak for all of the staff and all of the board members on the daycare board, as well as the committee that helped put all of this together, that truly is our mission, is to create a space where dependable Christian care can be provided for the families in our community. So let's dig in a little bit deeper into this. So the need for Christian care, for dependable Christian care, is something that continues to grow within our community. LaGrange County is actually considered a daycare desert, which means that the number of two-parent families that are working, that number is growing, and the number of available operational daycares is considered very sparse within our community. There's not a lot of them, and so the amount of daycare available for people, there's not a lot out there. So it's a sparse thing. So our county is considered a daycare desert. Now, according to Portia's last numbers, Portia's our director here at RYLM, the waiting list is at 67 families or 96 children. And if you remember what Carl was saying, when the ministry goals, when we kind of started all this, we had 30 kids and then we had 45 families. And now our waiting list is at 67 families with 96 kids. So the waiting list only continues to grow. And I think that's really important for us to look at because even this 67 families or these 96 kids, that doesn't take into account the number of phone calls that Portia receives every single day asking for childcare and people that can't afford to wait so they don't go onto the waiting list. So there's at least this many families in the community that need childcare, but probably even more. And so the waiting list, this offers us a glimpse into the importance of offering a ministry like RYLM because we can provide dependable care for people. But I think it also gives us a glimpse into the quality that this ministry already is. Because there's a few families on this waiting list that went on this waiting list back in 2019. Think about how many years ago that was. And every time they're contacted, every couple months to see if they want to continue to be on the waiting list, they always say yes. Because they know the quality of care that they would receive here at RYLM and the quality of education that they would receive, and they want their kids to be here. So they're willing to wait since 2019, that's 3 years, to be a part of this ministry. So that speaks to the quality of the ministry that is already happening and that we have the opportunity to continue to expand. So currently, one of the main reasons for this proposed expansion with phase 1 is to increase the total capacity of the basement. And so currently we can enroll 37 students, and if we undergo a remodel of the basement, we could enroll roughly 96 students. So that's over 20 more children that can be impacted by our ministry here at RYLM. That's 20 more kids that have the potential of their lives to be changed by the teachers and the staff and the volunteers. And additionally, we would be able to do this with only adding 1 or 2 more teachers. So essentially, like Dustin and Carl both mentioned, we would be making the space more efficient to where there's more children with only adding another teacher. So it's maximizing the use of the space and allowing us to be more efficient in how it is used. Also, a remodel like this would give us larger classrooms, which for the daycare, they could then implement a different classroom structure. And I won't bore you with the details of this classroom structure, but essentially, it would help them to be more efficient with their waiting list. They could move through the waiting list a little bit faster, and that boils down to more kids are coming in our doors being impacted by this ministry. So, as we continue to look at this, this expansion would maximize the space that God has already given to us. So now instead of part of the basement being utilized 5 days a week, now all of the basement is going to be utilized 5 days a week. And this isn't just it's not just a win for the daycare. This is also beneficial to our Sunday school programs because now our kids, they have access to updated and effective learning environments in these updated classrooms. We also have some adult Sunday school classrooms that are starting to kind of burst at the seams in the smaller classrooms that are down there. So the adult Sunday school classroom or the adult Sunday school picture is going to be something that is going to be an ongoing process because if you heard Dustin, a couple walls are going to be knocked out, which means there are going to be less rooms down there, but the rooms are going to be bigger, providing more space for if daycare rooms are shared with adult Sunday school classrooms. That's more room to meet, but there will be less classrooms. So like I said, the adult Sunday school classroom picture is going to be something that's ongoing as we undergo this journey. Now, if we take a look at, just for a second here, at the potential of doing a phase 2 or a large multi-purpose room, this would honestly open up the floodgates to what Shore Church could do and who we could reach. Because RYLM could use this on a daily basis. Shore Kids could use this on Sunday mornings for different activities. Shore Youth could use this on Wednesday night for a youth group. And perhaps maybe one of the most important things is we could use this space to host and engage the community in a ton of new ways, in a ton of different ways. So this gives us an opportunity to connect with the community. So with this project, we would see improvements. We would see possible additions to our facility that would open up numerous opportunities for kids and their families to be impacted. And we know that right now, there are at least 67 families that are waiting for us to create space for their children to come and learn. That's at least 96 children that could have their lives changed by walking into our doors and being a part of RYLM. With a large multi-purpose room, the sky is really the limit to how many lives could be changed or how many lives could be impacted for Jesus. And it's those people, it's those kids, it's those families, it's the people that are walking into our doors. Those people are the why, and those people are the why now. Because God has called Shore to this ministry. And so as you consider and ponder the proposal that you're hearing today, right now, I hope that you understand that Shore is embarking on a journey. And this journey doesn't end with phase 1. It doesn't even end with phase 2. But we're starting a journey and perhaps even a pivotal moment within the life of our congregation where we're making it clear that connecting with the community, connecting with people outside of our church is something that we care about. It's something that is a big priority within our church. And so God has called us to this ministry. He has called us to impact the lives of little ones through RYLM, and He has called us to do whatever it is that we can to reach the community, to connect with the community, and change lives for Jesus. I want to ask Jeff to come up, and he's going to talk us through a little bit more of the numbers for this proposal.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm disappointed that Dustin and I didn't get the memo about the shirts. I didn't know we were having a team presentation here, but we do need to get you a shirt, Dustin, before you leave. So, okay. Well, Dustin had provided a glimpse into the finances of the renovation, and I would like to speak in more depth concerning Phase 1. So, as you can see above, the estimated investment for Phase 1 is in the range of $650,000 to $850,000. So because we here at Shore are good stewards, we want to ask the question, what's the return on our investment? And you've heard some of these already. We've touched on them, but it's good to be reminded again as to why we would consider investing such a significant amount of resources in this renovation. The first and most important reason is to expand the dependable Christian daycare that the daycare provides. And our end goal would be showing the love of Christ to these additional kids and also to their families. Secondly, we would be providing a healthier learning environment for all of the daycare children and a better working environment for the staff. And thirdly, this renovation will lead to a more efficient use of space through improved student-teacher ratio and also through the increased capacity. And lastly, these efficiencies should lead to an improved financial outlook for the daycare. If we operate at capacity and manage our costs wisely, we should expect improved financial results. So where would our investment come from? Currently, we have approximately $100,000 of what I will call seed money to put towards the renovation. These funds come from the following areas. One, we have operating surpluses from the past 3 years that remain in reserve. We have a surplus in our capital fund. As you know, this fund gets replenished each year through the annual spending plan. And since we've been able to use operating surpluses to pay for major capital expenditures the past few years, the capital fund has grown and now has a surplus. These recent major projects include a new roof, new boilers, and a renovated fellowship hall. With these projects completed, we don't expect any additional large expenditures, and that allows us the option of using the surplus that's in the capital fund. There is also a building CD that remains from past capital projects, and those funds are also available to be used toward the renovation. So where would the rest of the investment come from? If the congregation decides to move forward, we would be looking at initiating a capital campaign to raise the remaining $550,000 to $750,000 for Phase 1. This campaign would be conducted by Church Growth Services and would have two components. The preferred component would be upfront financial commitments, and then for those that would prefer to have their investment spread out, there would be an option to make a 3-year commitment. And I do want to emphasize here that this campaign would come from sacrificial giving. That is above and beyond our normal giving, which goes toward meeting the annual spending plan. We still have church staff to pay. We still have programs to fund and bills to pay, thus the need for the sacrificial giving. If the upfront giving is not sufficient to fund the project, then ideally we'd be looking at a short-term loan to cover the 3-year commitments. So as these commitments come in, we would pay off the loan as quickly as possible. However, before taking on any debt, we would require congregational approval to do that. We still need to figure out what that looks like in terms of what level of approval that would be, and that's something that Stewards of Finance and Stewardship Commission would recommend. And lastly, if we would ever decide to move on to Phase 2, this capital campaign process would be repeated. So that's a glimpse into the finance side of things, and I think I give it back to the guy in the T-shirt.
Okay, so you might be asking, how can I help? We definitely want people to be praying about it. We want everybody to just be praying and asking, wisdom from God. We want you to be able to ask questions. That's going to be in our next input forum here, where you get a chance to ask those kinds of questions. Also, we want you to think about your own giving, and would there be ways that you can help, and what might that look like? But also even just thinking about sharing your faith and your resources, sharing your faith among us, your resources among us, but even just being willing to share, your story. I think at this point we are ready to. We're going to dismiss you. I would like you all just to go into the fellowship hall. There are circles of chairs. You're not assigned. Just go ahead and be seated in a circle, and then we'll take the next 25 to 30 minutes in there.